A whistleblower is accusing doctors at an ICE detention center of forcibly removing the wombs of immigrant detainees. This is one sick story. I wish I could say this is shocking. If you've been following the news at all over the past several years of how ICE has been treating detainees, this is not at all surprising. So I'm going to give you, look, there's a lot of details here. I'm also going to get to the response that we have from ICE so far. But let me start off here. It's just the top line from Business Insider. A nurse at a Georgia Immigration and Customs Enforcement facility is accusing the detention center of performing an unusual number of hysterectomies on immigrants being detained there, usually without their consent. I'll give you more details on the whistleblower herself. The nurse, Dawn Wooden, was employed at the Irwin County Detention Center, IDDC, in Georgia, which is operated by LaSalle Corrections, a private prison company. The complaint was filed with the Office of the Inspector General, OIG, for the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, by advocacy groups Project South, Georgia Detention Watch, Georgia Latino Alliance for Human Rights, and South Georgia Immigrant Support Network. So I'll give you a little detail here. So multiple women came forward to tell Project South about what they perceived to be the inordinate rate at which women in IDDC were subjected to hysterectomies, a surgical operation in which all or part of the uterus is removed. Additionally, many of the immigrant women who underwent the procedure were reportedly confused when asked to explain why they had the surgery, with one detainee likening their treatment to prisoners in concentration camps. Which, before I move on to more details, let me give you a headline here from how this is being reported in Australia. Because this gives you an idea of, if you're American, stuck in your world and stuck with your media, it can be hard to truly understand the crisis that you're in multiple ways. Obviously, with coronavirus, with the protests and with Trump encouraging violence from the police against protesters, and with something like this. So this from Gizmodo in Australia. Their headline is U.S. concentration camp sent undocumented women to be sterilized, according to whistleblower. This is the truth. This is really how it should be presented to you by U.S. media. These are concentration camps, and these undocumented women, according to these whistleblowers, were sterilized, forcibly sterilized. Let me go to some more information here. So this from The Guardian. Immigrants who spoke out against these conditions were regularly pushed into solitary confinement, the complaint said. Wooden says she was demoted and reprimanded when she spoke out about these practices, according to an interview with The Intercept. The Intercept also reported that Wooden's account was bolstered by interviews with another current member of Irwin's medical staff who asked not to be named for fear of retaliation, and 4 people currently or recently detained there. Quote, recently a detained immigrant told Project South that she talked to 5 different women detained at ICDC between October and December 2019 who had a hysterectomy done, the complaint stated. When she talked to them about the surgery, the woman reacted confused when explaining why they had one done. The woman told Project South that it was as though the women were trying to tell themselves it's going to be okay. When I met with all these women who had the surgeries, I thought this was like an experimental concentration camp. It was like they're experimenting with our bodies, the detainee said. Just a bit more information here. I get this is really heavy and disgusting, but this is what happens when ICE is allowed to do whatever the hell they want. This is what happens. I was almost going to get into a conversation here about the election, but really, if you're not convinced by now, I don't know what the hell to say. Response here from ICE. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement does not comment on matters presented to the Office of the Inspector General, which provides independent oversight and accountability within the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. ICE takes all allegations seriously and defers to the OIG regarding any potential investigation and/or the results. That said, in general, anonymous, unproven allegations made without any fact-checkable specifics should be treated with the appropriate skepticism they deserve. There are specifics to what happened. But yes, it's a whistleblower report. Obviously, there has to be more of an investigation. But ICE hasn't cared at all about the treatment that they've been, or about the way they've been treating these detainees up till now. I don't expect them to care about this either. This is why ICE has to be completely dismantled. And by the way, this is a new agency. This has not been around forever. The early 2000s is when ICE was created. So it's not like there was nothing. There's always been border protection. But ICE specifically, the way they detain these immigrants and the way they treat them, this being just another example of that. This shows you why they should not exist. Bernie Sanders replying here saying these reports are simply horrifying. They must be investigated by Congress, and anyone responsible must be held accountable for these disturbing acts. We must dismantle ICE and CPB and create an immigration system based on justice, not cruelty and human rights violations. Yeah, this I should have mentioned this earlier. This is an obvious human rights violation. Man, this is just year 4. And yes, ICE existed before Trump, but it's gotten extreme under Trump because Trump has enabled this kind of behavior, has done nothing to correct the human rights violations up till now that ICE has been committing. And he will continue not to do anything about it. You don't want to see what former years of Trump looks like. This is just another example of that.